Hi everyone, I'm Laura and I'm a member of Southeast City Church here in Ottawa. I'm going to tell you my story today about my journey with Jesus and how I came to know him and love him. Um, so, a bit about my background growing up. I was raised Catholic and went to Catholic school. So, I did learn about the Bible and gospel values and what it means to be a good person and a good Christian growing up. But I was pretty non practicing and didn't really connect with the faith. Um, my family did go to church every Sunday, probably until I was 12 or so. Um, and then it just kind of dwindled out and was more of a special occasion, Christmas and Easter thing for us. But my family did always raise me to have those good values and treat people with kindness and with love. But yeah, we weren't very connected to the faith. Um, so my journey, has obviously been ongoing my whole life. When I look back, there's lots of factors that led to me being here. Um, but the big turning point I can think of is when I was um, the years that I was 23, 24. It was a pretty tough period in my life. I had gone through some pretty significant changes right around my 23rd birthday. I ended a pretty long relationship mutually with my ex and graduated college. And so there were two really big changes in my life. Someone who had been part of my life for years, and his family was no longer a part of my life. Um, so that was a big change in routine and how I spent my time and who I connected with. As well as graduating college, I had been in school since kindergarten, and now I no longer had the routine of going to school every day, doing homework, and I was feeling like pretty lost and disconnected um, just from people around me and was feeling pretty lonely. Um, and that's when I probably got into some bad habits. Um, I thought that dating and finding a new boyfriend is what was going to fix everything. Um, but that kind of just ended up making me feel more empty. I spent the time that I was 23 and 24 mostly going out, partying, drinking, um, meeting guys, not making good decisions. And in the moment, I thought I was like, yeah, I'm a young, powerful, single, independent woman doing what I want. Like, this is great, this is fabulous. But most mornings, especially after a night of drinking and partying, I would wake up feeling like pretty awful um, about myself, pretty empty. Um, and at this time, I was um, working in a high school, and I happened to be working in a high school religion class where they were doing um, weekly Bible reflections, and I was helping one of my students write his Bible reflection, and I was kind of like, oh, this is, I can't remember what passage she chose, but I remember I found it kind of interesting. And I have a friend, Chrissy, that I met in college, and I decided to ask her some more questions about the Bible because I was like, huh, like I love to read, and I thought maybe I could get into this. So I asked her to recommend a version of the Bible that might be simpler for me to read than the King James Version, which is what we use in the Catholic high schools. And um, she was like, yeah, for sure, I recommend the Christian Standard Bible. But also, do you want to come to a church service with me and my husband, Bert? We go to this new, smaller church called Southeast City. And I was like, okay, cool, I'll try it out. I'll go with you guys. So they brought me to a service with them, and I remember we got there really late because there was a huge ice storm, and I was like, oh no, I'm late for church. I'm gonna burn when I walk in there. Um, but instead, I was just greeted with an overwhelming amount of kindness. Diana, David Hood's wife, she got me a chair right away and introduced me to her kids. Um, and I remember listening to Dave speak, and I'm sorry, Dave, I don't remember what that sermon was about. But I remember listening to him and thinking like, okay, like this guy makes sense. I could keep listening to this guy. And that was kind of where my journey started, and I kept going. And I remember each service that I went to, I was thinking, okay, like it was all baby steps, but each service and sermon that I went to and each time I connected with this group of people, um, it felt like a new baby step leading towards something more. Um, I remember going to dinner at the Hood's house and thinking like, okay, this is kind of weird. I'm eating dinner at the pastor's house. But they just were extremely welcoming people, and so were everyone else in the church. They were always checking in on me, always wanting to know how I was doing, offering help. Um, and they just were showing me the kind of love that Jesus has for people, and just kind of this unconditional love. Like I could see it in this big group of people. And that was really kind of my first glimpse of the love that Jesus has for me, is the love that these people were showing me. So I kept going. And I remember the sermon that kind of really drove it home for me, um, that Jesus is my rescuer, is when Dave Hood was preaching about how Jesus died on the cross for us, and that's not an easy death. Um, it was obviously very painful and very lonely for him, and that's when I realized that we have a God that knows our suffering. He knows our pain, and he knows the pain that I had gone through um, during those years of my life when I was 23, 24. He he could really understand and be with me in my pain because he had suffered the worst possible pain on the cross. And that's what I needed, was a God who could sympathize and empathize for me and with me, and really knows the hurt that I was going through and also knows how to heal that hurt. Um, so from there, like, in more discussions with my church family and with my pastor David Hood and his wife Diana Hood, I decided to get baptized this past October, and I've just been continuing to grow more and more in my faith since then. Thanks for listening.